Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another session. And today I'm going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be operating in my capacity as a chartered professional accountant, CPA Canada. They have dedicated April as the month of financial literacy, and they have gifted us with a number of slides. And we are supposed to contact schools and go and do these sessions and share these slides and all the information, but y'all know how I do it. It's just, let's say that I just try to share it in a fashion where much more persons will be able to have access to it. So the particular topic for today is, are you a good financial role model? And it is geared mostly towards parents and persons who have influence over young persons, but I think everybody needs to be a good financial model, not even if not for children, for themselves. And helping me today, I don't know who don't know Jeremy, but in case I got people out there that don't know Jeremy Stephen, this is wait, it's supposed to be calling you Steven Snow.
No.
Yes.
Don't start that.
We have Mr. Jeremy Stephen in the house. He is helping me with the tech side of this project because you will be seeing some slides incorporated, and he has volunteered to come out of his way to help me to not only have these slides up for you guys, but also there's a Dropbox link with all of these slides as well as the materials that we'll be going through today and everything that you will need for this particular session. There's also an evaluation form, which hopefully some of you guys will be kind enough to fill out. But if y'all don't like what's going on, then that's it.
Jason, boy, Jason. Blow that one, Jason. You win the day.
Yes. So I'm very appreciative for him coming out of his way on a Sunday when everybody wants to sit down and relax to help me to do this for you guys. So much appreciation to him as well. I'll just give a few minutes so that people can share the video and get it out as widely as possible, our usual to-dos. So let me see what's going on here. Let me share in my usual groups.
Yeah, I think I'll do the same as well right now. But I hope everybody's good today. And Chelsea won, so I'm happy. And this is for Jason. Wrong way. Chelsea won, so I'm extremely happy. Extremely happy right now. I see Roddy Yearwood is there. Jason, Christina Hunt, Cheryl, what's up? Christina, Tisha, what's up? Pedro, how you doing, bro? I ain't see you in a minute. What's up with you? You good? To everybody logged on, thanks for joining. Krystle just gave the preamble and I guess set context, but as always, we're going to share this video so more people see it because simply the material today that Krystle is going to cover for sure, and I'm going to somehow be involved in it as well, is going to definitely I would hope change lives. I'm not over promising, but at least it's fiduciary, it's responsible, it's imperative, all right, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, I have to stick to the materials that CPA would have given me as expected if I'm going to be representing them. I have to make sure that it's very clear what is CPA's view versus my view or Jeremy's view. So we will make that disclaimer if it is something that is not a part of the materials. We have been encouraged to share our own experiences, so we will try to do as much as possible. And it's also supposed to be an interactive session. So if there are persons on the thread who would like to share their own experiences with how they've been financial role models for the persons in their lives or for themselves, feel quite free to share that as well. So I have only shared to a little bit of people because I'm slow, but I will start.
Yeah.
Okay.
So ready to do this?
Yep.
Presentation?
Yeah.
All right.
So the goal is to make sure that you teach the children in your life about money from as early as possible. And a lot of times we think that children are too young to know about money, they're too young to know about sex, they're too young to know about a lot of things. But the key is to make sure that you're the one who gets there and gets there fast, because I find especially nowadays children are picking up on these things a lot sooner than you think. And it's better that you are the one that tells them how to manage money as opposed to somebody else or television or some other form of influence. So the best thing to do is to make sure that you build a foundation for the knowledge and the skills and the confidence that they will need to make sure that they have appropriate financial decisions that will help them out in life. It is very difficult to do though if your own financial house is not in order. So the first thing we want to do is to I would just give a little story about, let's call this woman Mavis. And Mavis is a recreational shopper, and she always buying things for herself or the house or the children. And though her husband does not always approve and has spoken to her about it, she can't seem to stop. She actually recently started sneaking her shopping bags into the house. The interesting thing is the effect this has had on her daughter. A friend recently took the girl to Sheraton Center, and while they were driving there, Mavis's daughter said that she couldn't wait to go shopping because her money was burning a hole in her pocket. So it makes you wonder where those kind of expressions come from. At the other end of the spectrum, we'll tell you about another example. We call that, person Krystle.
Mm-hmm.
And, this person would have a much different perspective on how to manage money. She makes sure that her bills are paid on time, and she shows her daughter what to do with her finances when they come around and links it to her allowance so that she can give an example of how to manage money from an early age. So we have those two examples for you guys to bear in mind. Our goals as adults with children is to raise them to be happy, healthy, successful, etc., etc. I'm speaking clearly out of theory. I have no children. I'll put that out there up front, but I do still believe that I can be a role model, if not necessarily for my own children who are not here yet, but for other persons in my life. If you don't succeed in teaching children about money, it may come back to haunt you, where you might have a big, hard-back-grown adult man child or woman child who's still financially dependent on you. I'm not sure if you guys remember the story in the nation about the guy who was upset with his parents because they took away his vehicle. And he was how old? He was like, nah.
He was older than us for sure. He was near 40.
Real old.
St. George in the house. St. George in the house.
And I mean, this is a consequence of what happens when you do not set proper examples for your children from early, because when they get a certain age, it's very difficult. It's not impossible, but it becomes very difficult to make sure that your child is fiscally responsible. So if you've ever struggled with financial problems that were brought on by bad habits or just not knowing how to manage money well, you know what a negative impact it can have on your life in general, and especially on your relationships with the persons that are closest to you. We definitely don't want to have that same experience for our children, because we want to make sure, even if we didn't do well for ourselves where that is concerned, we pass on better habits to our children. So let's take a look at some of the common challenges that adults face when teaching children about money. Research has shown that, and this is research I'm hoping that is applicable to Barbados as well. I would trust CPA Canada said they tailored it to Barbados. They said that. But research has shown that although 78% of parents have tried, 2/3 of them do not feel particularly successful teaching their children about money for a variety of reasons. A lot of people think they're too young to know, or they're not interested, but there are a lot of ways that you can engage children with money. Let me see if just making sure I don't have any persons asking me questions. Feel free to ask questions at any point.
I'll knock them for you. That's no problem.
Cool. The challenge is to make learning about money relevant and fun. Although it may not feel like a priority when children are young, these early years are a very important time to lay the foundation and to teach the basics, as children easily develop habits that are observed in the home and surroundings. I remember going to a seminar, I think it was 2 years ago, and I don't remember the guy's name, but I do remember he was white and came in from overseas, and he was talking about what he did with his children, young children, and they get an allowance, but they had to take at least half of that allowance and invest it. And I don't mean in the bank or anything like what some of our parents used to do, carry to the bank and let me open an account. They actually had to invest it in the market, in stocks, bonds, all sorts of different projects. And I mean, these is young children that he was doing this with. And he said by the time they got to like 9, 10, they were running sometimes their own businesses. They would have had companies that they would have had interest in and all of that kind of thing, where instead of even investing half the money, they were trying to put as much of their money in. And they were looking for chores and things to do to be able to earn more money so that they can invest more money, because they were seeing how it was growing. And this was something that I wish that we I know it's difficult for us to be able to translate these things because we may not have been exposed to it ourselves. But being able to take these examples and seeing how we can encourage our children instead of taking their entire allowance and spending it on snacks. Can you at least get them to save half of it to go and take them to go and get some T-bills, or that's your favorite thing. Take them to go to the to Globe Finance, not big, not picking up Globe Finance alone. There are many places you can go and take your child. Take them to go and get Sagicor, mutual fund, anything. Disclaimer: I work for Sagicor. Anything along those lines, so that children understand from early and get into this habit that money isn't just to be spent. It's to be earned and invested and put into projects, because you can also have your child invest in themselves. Help them to open a lemonade stand. If they like making clothes, help them to make Barbie clothes for the friends and all of that kind of thing. I know about persons who used to do things from small, hustle, go and buy a whole set of snacks and then sell them back to the friends at school.
Be careful though, we're a hustler going trouble with that a few years ago because of the nation. But the point is clear that people need to go out there and do something and take some risks, right?
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that the younger the child starts, the better. And I use this following analogy. There are quite a few parents, those that would be, I don't want to say impoverished, but lower income persons, that encourage their children to walk to school or catch the bus to school by themselves. And a lot of parents, I find, those in middle income, higher income, will look and scoff at that. But for me, I think there's certain level of independence and ingenuity being placed on that child at an early age. Now, I'm saying that same thinking is applied to let's say, economic freedom or financial freedom, which is not something that a child shouldn't learn to do. When you think back to the 50s, Krystle, for instance, or even before then, many of our foreparents were working from a very young age, but that was just to survive as opposed to build wealth.
Yeah.
I'm saying that the same thing could be installed, and we shouldn't look at it in a negative light. It's necessary to today's age as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Definitely.
So, a question to the audience: at what age did you notice your children becoming conscious about money? And for those who don't have children, at what age did you become conscious about money? Because I know for sure for myself, I definitely became conscious of money from a very, very early age. I know I was extremely young when I started to get an allowance, and I realized if I save a lot of this money, I would actually be able to have something to put down to help with the water bill, because the water bill back then was only $10. So from an early age, I always knew that if I wanted to help my household, that was something that I could do. But what age do your children start asking you questions about money? Have they ever asked you about money? What do they know? So if you don't have an answer now, you can drop it in the comments and we get back to it at another point.
Kat is saying 10ish. That's Kat Rock over London. She's saying around 10. Ironically, mine was about 8. About 8 when I started. I did this, and I'm ashamed to say this. Had this a little gambling ring going on at my primary school. No, where I don't know how people didn't realize the scheme that I was on. You would basically bet 25 cents to win back 50. And I would just get the whole classroom to put in a pool of 25 cents. And so what would happen is we roll a dice or something like that. Okay. And so the odds of people, no, it wasn't that. Actually, no, it was a counting game. Yeah, sorry. Oh, yeah, it was no, they can see me. It was a counting game. They can see me. It was a counting game that we would play. And essentially, they left it up to me, the house, to pick the number. And honest to God, I had snacks for weeks because of this little scheme, But I stopped it after my woman told me, well, you know what? Nah, Jeremy, boy, as a police, you can't be doing that. you can't be doing that kind of thing at school, But yeah, but that was when I became conscious of the need to build it or to earn it. Around 8, 9 years old, yeah, man. And Kat is saying 10. Otis out of Barbados. By the way of Canada, right? Quebec. Saying he was 8 when he would go and sell by himself soccer bubbies in his neighborhood. And mine was tamarind balls the summer of my 9th birthday. Yeah, so it's good that some people were doing it,
Yeah, it was not a seller, it was always a saver. It was never the hustler type mentality. I always used to be so conscious of not indulging in something because we need the money for later. So that, I guess, you grow up with these habits again, because this is something that I still have to this day, and I guess the hustle mentality is something you still have to this day. So you get to see as well too how important it is to instill these values in your children, because they keep them.
It's two different personalities at the end of the day too.
True.
Every child, as an adult, wouldn't necessarily respond to things the same way. So some people wouldn't like to go and take risks naturally, and then you can, as much as you would try, they would never do it.
Yeah.
And the same would apply to children as well too. So hey.
So other challenges that adults tend to face is the lack of knowledge. And from interacting with some of my friends recently, I've come to realize that there are persons that you take for granted know about budgeting and know about saving money, even in a profession like accounting. Because you expect for sure that accountants will know about managing and saving money, and even in that profession, some persons are unaware, or they don't watch where their funds are going, or if you ask them what position they are in financially, they cannot tell you. They don't know how much debt they have. They don't know how much savings they have. They just are not aware. So it's then difficult to then have that conversation with their children when they themselves are not in a proper financial position. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the time. They don't always have the opportunity to be able to look for those teachable moments and make sure that they pass on proper examples to their children. So a lot of adults will procrastinate. But what if these children are already teenagers and you've never taught them about money? The thing is to know that it is never too late to make sure that you share a new skill, or you learn about these things together. So what kind of financial role model do you think you are? What are some of the characteristics that you would consider to be good financial role model? The children are watching and they are learning for you. So it's very important to make sure that you're cautious and deliberate about your spending, or that you put large purchases on do you put large purchases on your credit card and worry about paying for them later? I know a lot of persons who don't even know what their credit card situation is. They just know that they could pay the bill when the month come and they're fine with that. Do you take your bills when they come and just toss them one side, or do you make sure that you know when the due dates are there and pay your bills on time? So try not to make money a taboo subject in your house. Many parents who are the most successful at teaching financial management, they discuss these skills with their teenagers. They make it a family financial situation. It's not a secret how bills are paid. It's not a secret where money is coming from and where money is going. Is considered a family affair as opposed to something just for the adults. So that is one way you can make sure that it's an honest and an open discussion, but stress confidentiality, because you don't want your business going out there. And you also have to bear in mind at what age is appropriate. Because if your child is still at the age where everything that happens in the house ends back up outside, you will have to be very wary of what kind of information you're going to share with your child. But as soon as they get to an age where they understand confidentiality, then you can share more and more with them so that they're involved. And that when they go out as adults, they're not now trying to figure out all of these things for themselves. They've had the habits in them from early. Need to talk about living within your means, something that Busy brought up recently, but we'll try to tackle it from a different angle.
CPA, apologize for the laugh. I totally want you to disregard my laugh just now, please.
Oh boy.
No, because go ahead, sorry.
Yes. It is important to know how to live within your means in terms of understanding what your goals are. So if you know that you want to save a deposit for a house or even a nice vacation, or whatever the case may be, we have crop over coming up. How many persons are putting down money every month when the month comes, so that when crop over comes, you're able to handle that expense as opposed to having to go down to the credit union or the bank and borrow money to go and enjoy yourself at crop over?
It's one of the strangest things I ever saw in my life. It's strange, but I mean, again, different perspectives.
Yeah.
As a finance fellow, I believe in material gain. I also believe in experiences and paying for experiences. Yes. I, however, don't believe in taking on consumer debt to experience something. Honest to God. I mean, if this was a little more technical, you could show it. But again, go right on.
I'm trying to use that example because I don't want persons to think that you can't live life and enjoy life. There's something to be said about at the end of your life, being able to look back and say that you had these experiences, they enriched your life, they fulfill your life, but it should not be at the expense of putting yourself in inordinate amounts of debt that you have to struggle then to pay off.
Agreed.
So there has to be a give and take, and it also has to play in line with what your situation is. If you know that you could only save $20 when the month come, you may not be able to go and buy a $1,000 costume come July, August. These are just some of the things that you might have to come to terms with, because if it's difficult for you to save this kind of money, how will you then be able to pay off that kind of loan along with your everyday responsibilities and then the surprises that life inevitably throws at you?
Cat Rock was there saying that carnival loans aren't for her. Trust me, a lot of people think they are very viable, but I equate them personally to sugar high. You know, sugar feels good while you're in it, but when you got to deal with what comes after, that low of the low, it's sometimes not even worth it. And there's this thing called diabetes that afflicts us, this part of the world as well.
So, how many persons are aware of what their mortgage or rent amount is? How much their utility bills are? How much they spend on food on average when the month comes? Gas, transportation, all these other things relative to their salary. So that you know, this is the amount of money that I make. This is the amount of money that I spend. This is what is left back. So can I save X amount of money towards my goal when the month comes? Do I have to cut some kind of expense? Do I have to go and look for another source of income so that I can be able to meet these goals that I have? We have a debrief exercise talking about how you feel about your results, about the role model self-assessment. So you could switch to that.
Just to show it, no problem.
Yeah, just to quickly show
no problem.
That slide.
I will do that role model self-assessment. So yeah, but just that people know, that Dropbox links we have in the title of this video will point you to a folder full of the files that Krystle will be referring to throughout. But this is what she was speaking of, role model self-assessment form. Yep. Just take one look at it there, because Krystle will guide you through what she thinks is pertinent for you.
So you have, it's basically a true or false, and you don't have to share the results, obviously. So it's best to be very honest with yourself, and it won't be a perfect yes or no, true or false, but you go with the answer that most describes you. So I like to discuss investments. If you know you don't discuss investments, and I don't mean investing in Kaduma costumes. Investing your money is something that will help it to grow. If that is not something you've ever discussed or talked about, or you rarely talked about it, don't go and say true when you know it ain't true. Put the faults, nobody ain't gonna see, nobody don't ever have to see. But if you go and you tally up and you realize that you have a lot of answers that make you realize, okay, maybe I'm not the best role model. Maybe it's time to go and take a hard look at yourself and see how you'll be able to get yourself back to a place where you'll be able to start becoming the financial role model you would like to be. And this session is not in any way supposed to make you financially savvy and magically able to do everything, but it's intended to be a jump start and for you to start thinking about these things and going and finding additional material to help you to get there. So going back to the slides. We're going into now the 10 healthy habits that can help you to become a good financial role model. So the first thing to do is to know where you stand. If you calculate your household cash flow, get a detailed budget, a net worth statement, doing these things will help to provide you with some form of self-control. For myself, I document everything in Excel. Every single day, I track my expenses. I know what I'm spending money on. I then categorize these expenses so I know how much I've spent on gas, how much I've spent on food, how much I've spent on mortgage, etc. So that every month I'll be able to see, okay, gas gone up, but we know that can always be going up because even though I ain't really going nowhere different, people seem to think it's okay to jack up the price of gas when the month comes.
Well, people, Donald Trump and the Saudis.
Yeah.
Another story for another day.
Yeah. I can see over a period of time what my food bill looks like. I can see over a period of time what my miscellaneous expenses look like. And when I look and I see a huge jump, I can go back to my detail and see what happened in that particular month to see if it was something frivolous or if it was some kind of emergency or something like that. So sometimes you have like the dentist pop up every 6 months and you go and pull your pocket for something like that, or your car decide that, it's not going to be working today. Those kind of things will happen. This is why it's important for you to be budgeting and saving money for when these things happen. It doesn't put you under dire straits. Yeah. The next one is to live within your means. This is sometimes the most important lesson that you can teach your children. And the best way to teach it is to actually live this way, which I know is very difficult sometimes. Sorry, people, let me mute my laptop. I didn't know I was disturbing you. Give me 2 seconds, please.
Right, guys, so which one you were on? Like, live within your means?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one I have the most challenges with. And let me tell you why. But there's nothing wrong. This is my own opinion. Living within your own means as a consumer is important because typically, I believe we tend to spend a little more than is necessary just for us to get by, just for us to maintain a standard of living. Where I begin to question it, and again, this depends on the point of view you wish to attack being a good financial role model. If again you're the type that progressively wants to build wealth, then it's important to live within your own means while investing in your ability to grow that wealth. But living within your own means doesn't mean, for instance, let's say, like me, for instance, I just came back from overseas. Ironically, came back from the place I first ever slept outside just because I didn't have the money to afford a hotel in Miami. Doral, slept outside a Walmart, rented a car for like, 20 US, 30 US, slept in that car. Walmart in Doral is 24 hours, all Walmarts are as far as I'm concerned. And I slept in that car park for that day and then caught my flight to a conference I had in New York. And I mean, no, I don't have to do that, but it means I don't earn at the level or try not to even earn insignificantly at that level I was earning back then, where I had to cut and try and inconvenience myself. I'm not as young as I was when I did that. I was in my mid to late 20s when I did it. My back, although it still holds up pretty well, it gets tight. It gets a bit tight. I will admit, it gets tight. I'm not going to inconvenience myself. Therefore, I have to continue putting myself in a position to continue to earn more, but also be responsible with what I'm earning and keep on investing what I'm earning responsibly, deferring any kind of gratification I've got. I mean, that's how I look at living within my means.
Yeah. Everybody has a different perspective, and it'd be interesting to hear you guys' perspective on it, because for me, living within my means for me means that when the month comes, I am not struggling to pay my bills. It cannot be a struggle for me because it's very scary to know that my bills are coming anywhere close to the money that I make, because it means that I'm not saving for what I want in the long run. And at any point in time, if my income stream stops, then I would be in some serious financial trouble, because if I need to be matching this, then I need to either very quickly find back something that helps me to earn that kind of income, which in this day and age may not always be feasible. But I guess I've always had that fear from a very young age, and it has stayed with me. So living within your means a lot to me, and I would like to hear your perspective on what it means for you guys as well. Save and pay yourself first. This is something that me and the others at work talk about all the time. As soon as the pay pack hits that bank account, it's gone, because you've already paid your bills. You send the amount that you wanted to save for the month to the other account that is the untouchable account, and by the time you're done, you just got a bare minimum for emergencies or for fun or for whatever else it is that you have going on. So it fits back into the whole live within your means section, where you've taken care of business, you've taken care of savings, you've taken care of bills, and whatever it is that you have left back, you figure out how to live with that. Because for me, I've made it very inconvenient to go to wherever it is I have it stashed away and take it out, which means it's more of a bother to go and do that than to just go and live with what I have. So unless there's a really huge emergency, I'm not touching that money because it has a purpose. And if I do touch that, that means what I had in mind, which is supposed to be an important goal, can't get done.
Then there's also another point of view. Otis mentioned it a little earlier with respect to saving for 6 months, 6 months of savings, so that he's able to survive once he's unemployed, or if he's unemployed, or ever so becomes so. And it was interesting that he brought that up just before we decided to speak about it.
That's actually point number 5.
Yeah.
Setting up a financial safety net.
Yeah, but I mean, he was looking at it from the perspective of paying yourself first, because that then helps you with that safety net as well, right?
It does.
And I thought it was very interesting that he caught that, or rather brought it up from the previous slide, maybe on the previous slide. Yeah.
That's really important, because I remember, and it's difficult now, because before the template used to be, save for 6 months, because hopefully in 6 months you can find back a job. But I've had a number of persons, friends of mine, that they couldn't get back a job in 6 months. And after that 6 months of savings was gone, that's when the roughness started to kick in. And I know of friends who were unemployed for a year, year and a half, 2 years, and the struggle was real. Yeah,
but I also tell people, look, don't adopt the mindset I had when I finished my master's, which was, I come out here to get a master's. There's no way working at McDonald's to stay. When I was going to the UK, and for me, honestly, it was partially that, but also other things that led to me coming back to Barbados. Mainly that I thought I had more of a role to play. But I'm seeing, however, the mindset I had then, if it was slightly different, more along the lines of how I think now, I might not have come back to Barbados. I might have done the McDonald's thing as a way of being able to survive until I get the income I know I'm able to live off of, or I deserve. Yeah. So I think most people, if it is that you've reached that bad patch, that 6 months safety net that you paid yourself, because we're still on that point, right? Paid yourself first for, should be, even if you're unemployed. Yeah, once you don't have anything going, pull from it, but it doesn't mean that you don't look for something in the interim before you get something substantial. We need to stop thinking in the Caribbean, if this man see me at Shafet, you look bad or look foolish to them. Nah, you're trying to survive. Forget them. Because if they're getting a rough patch and they don't do what you're doing, they may very well be pulling back years and years and years of forward advancement on their income, or their savings.
Right. Yeah. I will be honest with this particular point. When I went through all of the points, this is one that I have not always done, to be honest, because especially when I was building the house out of pocket. So there were times where you just need to finish off this particular stage, and I take up all the savings I had and just finish what had to be done. And just live tight and pray that I don't lose my job or anything else. Yeah, I mean, it's a gamble.
But you were investing though.
I know, but it is a gamble. And there was a point where I literally had $0.00 on my bank account.
But that was...
And I was just waiting for the next payday to help build it back up. But I mean, those are calculated risks. They're not significant risks to me.
Good. But that's the main point.
Yeah.
That you could recover from it. But you see, all right. I always wonder if people think, let's say the cultures in our society here, because Barbados isn't monochromatic in any form or fashion. There's several different cultures within races and whatnot. There are cultures here that literally, they don't have bank accounts. They might have cash, but they might not have bank accounts. And that cash is always turning.
Yes.
They always tell you it needs to turn over. It needs to be either in inventory, working capital. It needs to be doing something. So you were doing something with your money, and then you know, like push come to shove. If you had to lose your job, say for, I ain't wishing nothing bad on you, my girl.
I know.
But if you had to lose a job and you weren't lucky for a year or so, I can almost guarantee that your light might go off, but you got somewhere to sleep.
Well, the light is the one thing that would not go off.
Oh, yeah, forget. Oh, sorry. you hedge your risk in that area.
There you go.
She all on solar. All right, sorry. The internet might go off.
Oh, no, I would die.
Yeah, but the internet might go off, but she has somewhere to sleep. You remember they kicking you out once you can pay a lot of taxes, right?
Yeah.
But there you go.
So those are the kind of things I've tried to keep my expenses low, and share a little bit of my personal business, just a little bit. The mortgage is like $1,600, and my personal expenses are about $500, and there's something else: mortgage, the utility bills, Food and gas is very, but yeah, and those two are shared expenses.
Okay. Well, yeah. The fortune of the American.
Exactly. So, other than the gas and the food, shared expenses. That's what I've tried to do to keep my expenses very low. And the other thing that I do, which I've been trying to encourage my friends in as well, is to put down extra on your mortgage. So, for instance, I've paid 6 payments ahead. And based on my spreadsheet, that has translated into 22 payments that I've cut down on my mortgage. So when you look at the amount of money that you've saved in the long run by putting on extra, and it doesn't even $100 extra on a mortgage makes a big difference for those persons out there who are stuck in a 30-year low mortgage. Any extra that you put down makes a difference.
Yeah, it cuts down on principal, right?
Yeah.
And remember, the interest is charged on the principal. The interest translates into additional payments. The Barbados government used to understand that, and that's my opinion, not the CPAs.
Yes.
So, but nonetheless, you actually stoked an old memory of mine. The first house my old man ever got, it was a 25-year loan that he had. He paid it off in about 19 or 20, and this was before I even understood anything but finance. I couldn't understand why he was taking that large amount of money just to pay it on the house. And he understood that he didn't have the financial sophistications here that I might have been trained with. But it was interesting to see that major tenant allowed him now to him and my old lady to go and pursue their own dream home now that they always wanted without having a mortgage because of significant savings having paid down early in the area of the lives. Yeah. It
really does make a difference. And people think, 30 years, they can be good. But I was watching a video with Venezuela today, and the guy was talking about this money. He had a whole set of money in his hand. He said this money used to be able to pay his mortgage. And now he got to use this same amount of money to go and buy food. And I'm not saying this is what is going to happen to Barbados, God forbid.
Knock on wood, yeah.
Don't want it to happen. But we do not know the future. We do not know how things are going to go. And I've had friends ask me, why just putting all this extra on the mortgage? I say, if anything had to happen, God forbid, I need, putting all that 6 months. For 6 months, I don't have to worry about the mortgage because I've paid ahead. So if something had to happen to me, God forbid, I got 6 months to figure it out, find some other means or source of income before the mortgage come barking at my door. So that was another way that I was trying to look at it as well. The more that I can get ahead with that, that's one less thing to have to worry about if something bad had to happen. So just going back to point number 4, understanding the difference between good and bad debt. So we spoke about the crop over loans before. I know that one, a lot of people are going to be upset, but I personally consider that to be bad debt.
Bad debt.
It does not earn you anything unless you're a model or some person that is involved in that kind of field where you take that money and you go and you model that costume and you could get a contract out of it or something along those lines. Your Kadooment Day experience is not earning you any money. It's an experience, it's valuable personally, but it's not a financial investment. So it is going to fall into the bad debt category.
Unless, as Krystle said, just to re-emphasize, it somehow turns and grows your financial well-being. So like, all right, there's this thinking, and I want to say this a little bit, that our generation, the so-called millennials, and also the ones coming just behind us, their Generation Z, that we value experiences over anything else. And the valuation of experiences really does come down to, and I don't know if you guys have felt this before or seen this before, but it really just does come down to being able to utilize it to survive. So for instance, I travel the world for argument's sake, and I experience many different cultures. You take back certain nuances to the workplace and you benefit from them, except if you plan on being a monk or something. So for me, if crop over, if you jumping is all right. I don't personally do it myself. But if you, as a consumer of crop over, if I can call you that, decides, well, let's go and jump and we're going to borrow this money and we're going to do this. If it turns out to improve your financial and holistic well-being in the long run, then so be it. Fine. Just be very careful about the rate that you take on and the terms and conditions.
Yeah.
Because if the terms and conditions are onerous, Very difficult for you to live with after the fact that you
Right.
can't pay off or you can't survive it or maintain. Then, straight up, bad debt, as far as I'm concerned. Straight up.
So like if you got a friend that can lend you an interest-free loan,
Shoot. Jump hard.
I mean, sure.
Jump hard.
Pay back the people the money though, because there's nothing like building bad will
Yeah.
when you don't pay back a debt, especially when the person was so honorable enough to actually lending money in these days and age ain't easy. I don't care how much money people make. For majority of people in Barbados, lending out money is not easy.
Mm-hmm.
So if some person is kind enough to do that for you, give back the people the money. So some examples they have, just to make sure we incorporate everything CPA had, they have some examples of good debt.
Mm-hmm.
So getting a student loan is considered good debt, because the idea is if you are not educated, more than likely you have to end up in an entry-level job that will earn you an income that will not be as favorable as if you had to go and become educated. And this does not even necessarily mean doctor, lawyer, bank manager. I believe in whatever field you are in, it is best to invest in learning how to do that to the best of your ability. So even if that's plumbing, you watch your father and you pick up how to do some plumbing and all that kind of thing, but that's all you've done. I think that that's a bad investment. I think you should go and learn all of the tricks of the trade that you can learn, whether it's through school, whether it's online learning, books. Pick up whatever it is that you have to do to make sure that you become the best plumber, carpenter, mechanic, artist, dancer, whatever that particular field is that you're going to go into. I've seen it with dancers in Barbados. Your cousin, she went and just decided that she can go and rely on her skills and talent, which she has natural skill and talent. She went to classes and she learned how to be a better dancer.
Mm-hmm. So
and it is turning over dividends for her.
Yep.
So this is why it's important, I think, for people to stop thinking that investing in your education is only for persons who are doing book subjects. To me, it's as important for persons who are in skills, because it adds a level to what you're doing that it becomes invaluable and sets you apart from everybody else that's doing it.
Agreed. So agreed. Hey, Nandy.
Know the difference between needs and wants. This is so important. I nowadays I gotta remind myself, because now that certain financial burdens are not there, I still have certain goals, but they're not as urgent because now you're comfortable. So when you get comfortable, you say, man, I live in good, so even if I don't met this goal, I'm still fine. But I still have to always keep in mind that this goal is going to help me to improve my life in the long run. So differentiating between a need and a want, only you can determine what is a need for you. I can't tell you that you need a house. I can't tell you that you need a car. I can't tell you that you need mutual funds. You have to determine what it is that is a need, but at the very end of the day, make sure that you separate need from want and focus on making sure your needs are fulfilled as opposed to giving into your wants. So
Go ahead. Let's just see a comment there. That was good. Yeah.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is to learn about delayed gratification, and this one is difficult for me to speak on because this is something that is easy for me. So I do not want it to come over as though, persons feel as though, she telling people about delayed gratification, she don't understand how hard it is. I don't understand how hard it is for some persons because it's never been a difficulty for me to see something that I want and know that I can't have it yet. But this is the part I would love to hear persons' feedback to get from you, why it is you will have something that you know is important and you would take up the money for that important thing and go and spend it on something that takes away from your goal. So there's a test that I've heard, see it here, and there's also something I've heard about from before, where these psychiatrists, they put these children in a room and they have something called the Marshmallow Test.
Okay.
And there were some children, they were looking at the children who would eat the marshmallow now, because they would have given the instruction that if you don't eat the marshmallow, you would get like double the marshmallows later.
Okay.
But if you eat them now, you don't get any extra.
Okay.
So they put the children in this room, and there were some children that they didn't care with the fact they can get extra marshmallows later. They want marshmallows now, and they would eat them. Versus the ones that took the instruction and they waited out however long it was, and they waited for their payoff, their reward. And they watched those children over a period of time and realized that those children that were able to delay gratification were very successful in managing their finances and saving and making sure that they keep everything in check. So this is another reason why I said it's not always something that is like I just turn on a light bulb and I'm able to just say, yeah, I don't want this. No, I know I can get something better in the future. It is something that you have to look at socially as to why there are some persons that seem built to delay gratification and there are others who give in to their impulses, and be able to look at how you can help the persons who give in to their impulses to develop good habits about saving and delaying gratification. So that part, I am not sure if there's more research in that area, but you got my sister giggling.
Shucks. I'm ever so flattered, Patrice.
But yeah, for those of you who do have struggles with delaying gratification, you could just drop some comments and let us know what it is with the difficulty for you, what goes on in your head when it happens, and how you think you'll be able to get over this. And maybe if it's something you'd like us to go and explore further and see. My sister did a little psychology, so I don't know if she can jump in and give some explanations or some background into why some people are set up like this and how you'll be able to shift into another direction. But I always found that one interesting, and I'm very grateful that I lean on the side of easily being able to delay gratification.
I can't agree with you, but your psychologically advanced sister will laugh at me at this point. So I can't really agree with you. Right?
Oh, Lord. Wait, which part you disagreeing with?
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying I can't agree because
you can't agree because
she was the psychologically advanced sister would start laughing at me. so can't really agree. But no, what you're saying is very prudent, for sure.
So I've mentioned this before, but keeping track of your spending, it is so important. I remember when I first started working, probably like the first month, I couldn't figure out where my money was going. And I decided to get, this is before you'd already advanced to computers, those blue ledger books.
Yeah, boy.
I have one of those blue ledger books, and I wrote down everything right down to the $1.25 Saturday Sun newspaper that I would buy. Everything got written down in that ledger. And when I started to see some of the crap that I was spending my money on, it helps a lot in terms of saying, yes, this is where my money is going. This is the crap that I need to cut out if I want to be able to make this particular goal. And you get that, you lose that sense of, well, I ain't know where my money went. I mean, well, I ain't really spend a big long money this month. I only buy XYZ, but you forget about the $20 Chafette that you went and buy. You forget about the $100 ticket that you buy for Blue's Cruise, if it's that little bit of money now anyhow.
I don't even know.
I mean, those things in between, because it's easy to remember rent, especially because it's a monthly expense. It's easy to remember the big expenses that you drop when the month comes. But those little things, you'll be surprised, so surprised at how much they rack up. Excel is easy because it helps you in terms of adding up and summing and then doing all of the categories that I was telling you about before. But there's nothing wrong with pen and paper. Once you're keeping track of the expenses and you know where your money is going at the end of the month, and you can be able to tweak your budget to suit.
Oh yeah, Shannon Clark just asked an interesting question. I figure.
How to start a conversation about money with your niece and nephew and allowances. Well, in terms of allowance, we had a discussion earlier that with an example that I shared, just to very quickly go back through. The guy that with his children, he made his children invest half of their allowance, and not just by putting it on the bank, but actual investments in businesses, stocks, bonds. You could do T-bills. Actually taking them. I remember my cousin Dean. I don't know when my uncle left me out, but he took my cousin Dean and I think his sister to Globe Finance and showed them how to put their money in mutual funds from very early. And actually showing them that process takes away some of the fear and uncertainty around it as well too, because you'd be surprised children grow up into adults that they still don't understand these things, and know they're adults. They're too embarrassed to ask because adults are expected to know. But if they've never done it, it's an unfamiliar process, and nobody's supposed to know you got a cat.
Which one?
The whole world.
The whole world.
You're gonna owe me. But yeah. Showing children what it's like to pay bills. Showing children what it's like when you go to the supermarket. where you have to make sure that you can only buy X amount of macaroni and X amount of chicken, because when the money wraps up on the grocery bill, and show them that this is the amount of money you make in salary, depending on how, as we spoke of confidentiality as well, showing the children that the money don't just appear on a tree and you can spend it as you please. And they will get to see these habits from early, and it then becomes a familiar process as adults and not something that they're ashamed of. So hopefully that example with how you will have that discussion with your niece and nephew helps. But I would say, especially for you, Shannon, because as me making assumptions about you and how you save and spend your money, but you do have persons and friends who are financially savvy, that I hope you follow their example and you show your niece and nephew the things that they share and talk about.
He said Melinda Bell taught him, so I would
Correct.
figure that he's financially responsible. No,
There you
if
go.
he wasn't before.
At the very least.
At the very least.
So, next point is, even if you can only afford a small amount, start as soon as you can to let time and compounding interest work for you. Well, I ain't really too sure how this example will work in Barbados. This will be earning 0.05% interest.
Most places globally, man, you're hardly getting any interest now.
So that whole idea of interest is not really going to work, especially when you get hit with fees. And like, I remember the first time that I made enough interest to pay tax on it. I was so mad. I called the bank. I want to know was this money they take it off my car. It was so vexed, and they hear that if you met a certain amount of interest, you get withholding tax. I was like, y'all ain't serious. I take off my money same time, put credit union. It had no right then there to begin with because it was part of the mortgage. You know, when you get mortgage money, and I like instead of putting it straight in credit union, and I get waxed. I was so vexed.
Okay.
But I know you'd be vexed with me telling about people to put money from credit.
No, I ain't vexed with that. I always say, just as we've clearly pointed out that there's risk to every action. It's just that a lot of people see the credit union as with no risk at all, which I find to be strange because every organization has risk. So I mean, it goes against convention, and I know I have a very excited tone, so obviously people would take it to mean that I said bun fab on credit unions, but I don't think so. In fact, if I find a credit union that fits certain things, or the Part 3 organizations with the same signature and whatnot, which aren't credit unions, they aren't member owned, for instance, but very well have certain features like a credit union. You know, once you got the deposit insurance, as I said, that's a major thing for me in this environment. By all means, if it's there, I'm good. But otherwise, if other people don't care too much for that and the interest is what they're going for, then by all means, go on to that. And in fact, you just taught me something there that I thought wasn't the case, where I honestly thought withholding tax was a general thing for all financial institutions given a certain amount of interest. So I thought the credit unions charge withholding tax, but I could be wrong.
I could be wrong too, because maybe the credit union, I just feel a little bit more safe in not checking frequently.
Yeah.
But my person's account, any bank account I got, I check every day.
However you want to go with it, that's fine.
But that
money's like religion, very sensitive.
It's true.
One of my students, Jonathan, actually just asked you a question. You might not have seen this.
Okay. How does a teenage student build such a firm financial foundation? What are the most accessible financial instruments for students? No.
Latoya Davis went ahead, and it seems like she answered some of it. But I mean, what's your take? I won't tell you because I'm testing him on this stuff a little bit. Right?
Oh boy.
Yeah, he got an exam for me. He actually has an exam to do for me in the next week or so or two.
No. Again, as I was saying before, most of the time it's what you're exposed to. So as I mentioned before, my uncle exposing my cousins to going to places where they can invest in mutual funds and showing them about shares, because he did work for the US Stock Exchange and stuff like that. So he knew about these things and he made it less scary. But for those of us who, and you know, Beta's tend to be very risk averse and very scared of everything that is not a bank, not a credit union.
Agreed.
So there is an element of risk when you start going outside of the norms, but we've had to. And I will say, even as a teenager, to invest in yourself. What I've been seeing a lot of the younger, more entrepreneurial teenagers doing nowadays, even your cousin, there's Wesley with his musical talent, and it's not the violin he plays, but it's a string instrument like the violin, very small one. But he has had opportunities to travel overseas and everything. Don't take your talents for granted. And I'm giving this advice as under observations for what I've seen other young persons do, and not just off of theory, because the slides are going to have in a lot of theory about what you should do. So the slides are telling you to go and put it in a bank and get that accumulated interest. But in reality, the situation is that the teenagers that I've seen that have been more successful are the ones that take their talents and, as I mentioned before, not just saying, I could sing, so let me just go there and sing. They actually take lessons, they go to school, they try to find ways to make sure that they improve their talents and their skills. And they're not taking it for granted that just because they're good at something, that's all they need to rely on. And I think that's a lesson that we as adults need to learn. Wait, boy. I think that's a
Krystle pet way to get, boy.
Regular she's get felt way.
Oh,
I don't even know where she toy gone, because she toy is supposed to usually save me, but anyhow.
Go ahead, listen.
Taking these examples from these very, to me, they are the true pioneers. They're the ones that are not afraid to say that they don't know everything and they're going to go and learn. And some other things I've seen young persons doing, they're not afraid to open their own business. So I've been seeing young persons going out there and learning how to do a budget. They're learning how to go and be marketing experts. They got the Facebook, social media, advertising, everything down pat. They know how to sell ice to Eskimo. They're not taking for granted that because they're good at making cakes, that's all that's required to make their business work. So as a teenager, making sure that you get those skills in from early, because I find you guys are much more willing to go out there and find this information, go on YouTube and learn how to get these things done. Make sure that if you go and open your own business or whatever the case may be, learn about all of the pros and cons of doing it. So don't just think that opening a business just means I can be my own boss and I gotta listen to nobody. You always got somebody you gotta listen to, because when that angry customer comes to you, and they're vexed and you need that money, you gotta go and say yes please and try to figure out what it is that you need to do to make that customer happy. So these are the things people need to understand, not going into it with rose-colored glasses, but going in with all the tools that are necessary to help you to be as prepared for entrepreneurship as possible.
True that.
So
the one thing is with Jonathan, and your sister just put up a very interesting response to what you had asked about earlier. But the thing about Jonathan as well is that he's one of the students I exposed to cryptocurrency trading last semester, and I held back from doing that this semester for obvious reasons. The markets were a little too shaky.
Start crashing.
But that's actually a good thing. But it's hard to sell people on it.
Yeah.
So I when it was about to rise, that big boom just based on pure speculation, people wanted to jump in because of the fear of missing out on big money.
Yeah.
I said, well, look, this is a good time to teach how crowd behavior could actually either make you wealthy if you play it smart, or they can make you poor if you don't.
Yeah.
So Jonathan is one of the few that was fortunate at the time when I decided to teach that lesson. I made some money from it and whatnot. So I'm quite sure he also, in addition to what you were saying, would want to push the idea of looking at alternative forms of investment. So not just the classical senses of investment. Another student of mine, one of my Guyanese brethren, Shaki Warrow, seems to be on here. Shaki is also very brilliant. Is talking about, well, just be aware. Let me put it this way, in the way that wouldn't necessarily offend, but to elucidate. That you got to be also, if you're looking for alternative forms of investment, be very aware of all of the risk associated with all these alternative and unproven forms of investment.
And anybody who tells you that something is risk-free is lying.
Yeah, boy, nothing.
Nothing is risk-free. Not even a bank account is risk-free.
Exactly.
It's just how much risk you're willing to take on. And we as Beijers, we don't like taking on any risk. So it's very difficult for some of us to find an investment. But there are going to be certain things where you just have to take a chance, whether it's on yourself or on somebody else.
Or to make it easy on people, especially with children, because children are very honest with what they're interested in. I always say this. Normally, put your money in things that you have a good interest in, because it will force you to educate yourself about all the pros and the cons of becoming involved in such a thing. So if it is you are interested in making money, your child got raised in the ways of making money, and they have a liking of it, they feel alive when money's being made, hopefully in a very moralistic fashion, then by all means, allow the child to explore ways and means of making money in a way that seemingly is interesting to them. That's so for me, for instance, I have a wide array of interests, a wide array. And I try as much as possible to make money from each and every one of them, simply because that's where my training is. And so it would be music one moment, it could be computer science the other moment, it could be something as simple as retail, it could be advisory, it could be lecturing. So I mean, and I go deep into these subject areas because I'm interested. But ask me about fixing the car, never touch it, never touch an engine in my life. I can't. If I start it, well, that's all right. But I mean, in any meaningful way, I've never really done it. So to expect me to actually go and make money or start a car or to repair shop, a body workshop, would almost be crazy. I would lose money in that area. Correct. I would. I have no interest in it. And I wouldn't do the requisite amount of research or have the requisite amount of interest to make sure it stays afloat. Yeah, that's Otis. Okay. And Barbados does teach entrepreneurship in schools, not as part of core curriculum, but I mean, and this isn't necessarily part of promotion, but I do see one of the proponents of it on the stream. The Barbados Entrepreneurship Foundation has the $20 challenge, which has done way more, in my view, in spreading an appreciation of entrepreneurship than what I would have had back then, what you would have had back then, Kat, certainly what Krystle, Otis, many people on the stream would have had back then. Jonathan probably is the only one I've seen here who would have benefited from that kind of interest. Yeah.
So the last point is in relation to presenting a united money front. And this is emphasizing the fact that you should not have a do as I say and not as I do attitude when it comes to managing money. So that means that for you to be a good financial role model, you have to live it. Because children ain't foolish, especially ones nowadays. They know more than any of we when either growing up. They know when you faking it. They know when you're not being honest, and they don't appreciate it. They're not stupid. So if you make this a shared family value, you're more likely to pass on these habits to your children. And just to bring in the point that Patrice made earlier, delayed gratification may be genuinely hard for some households. It depends on a parent's view on what is good parenting. Maybe giving immediately when the child needs or wants something that's good, while another parent might think otherwise, i.e. making the child wait via whatever method. A struggling household may indirectly teach delayed gratification because they have no choice. So thanks for the comment. And have Latoya making comment that you invest in...
Oh, sorry, my bad.
You invest in yourself, real estate, or agriculture. Just in terms of real estate, be careful of always, again, following the traditional means that everybody else does. I've seen some persons go make some good money in terms of, renting things. So not just renting a house, but for instance, you rent out rental equipment, you rent out a mixer, you rent out this, you rent out that, because it has a much lower amount in terms of an investment, but you have a much better opportunity in terms of being able to get that returned over. Whereas persons might go into real estate thinking, okay, this is a guaranteed way to be able to make money. Then you have a humongous mortgage and an empty house, or you have to rent it out for an amount that's significantly lower than what would be able to help you manage the mortgage. Because there's so many people now with real estate sitting down looking for tenants. This is not to discourage anyone who has the gumption to go and do something like that. It's just something to bear in mind, that you don't go into these things thinking that they are guaranteed ways of making money without understanding, again, all the risks associated with it. So when there are booms and lows, you have to make sure that your investment does not come around at a time where it is a disadvantage to you.
Good point. Very good point.
Especially when you're talking about that kind of money. Kat is here talking about renting out luxury goods like handbags.
You see that? Forgetting me back a while now, 10 years almost. When I was in the UK, there was this big talk. There were two big topical issues in the UK outside of the classical finance and market instruments. Number one was peer-to-peer lending, which is now really begun to take hold in the Caribbean. 10 years after England would have basically pioneered it. And then the second one was actually rental of luxury goods, believe it or not. Rental of luxury goods. So a lot of women, because back then you would think a woman would want to see themselves or another woman dressed the same way as them. At least this is the impression they get. Not a woman, clearly. But then also it was the same when it came to the handbags. It was the same when it came to earrings. But funnily enough, there was a movement happening in the UK about 10 years ago where people literally were renting clothes. I mean, we rent tuxedos for weddings, but I'm talking about renting clothes and whatnot, and they were targeting females, and I found that to be interesting.
I'm surprised it doesn't take off more, even if not with clothes, at least with the handbags,
accessories,
because a lot of the times women don't like to be seen in the same outfit again, you know.
No.
So if I'm going to a wedding, instead of buying a dress for $500 and putting it in my closet because I don't want nobody see me in again, why would it be taboo then to go and rent? Even if not the dress, the shoes, because the shoes be hot too, the earrings, whatever it is, and nobody ain't gonna know that I rent them, and then put them, get them back to the person, and you pay a fraction of the price.
It's true.
Like you still end up in your closet never being worn again. It's true. At least like not be worn again for, you know,
it's very true.
A lot less money. Not sure if this is a business idea that's already happening in Barbados or how difficult it would be to get people to buy in, but I think some person with the right marketing skills.
Man, it's happening in Barbados. It just don't got the prices attached to it. I'm quite sure people just wear the French clothes in Barbados and borrow the French things. Quite sure, but I'm saying to put value in it, there must be some level of secrecy. The person must be sure nobody is ever able to say this is where I got the clothes from.
There's a lot of things that's good on in Barbados that people be able to maintain a level of confidentiality. It's you just gotta find a way to make sure that it becomes known. This is the place to go to if you want, but you know that you went and rent your clothes.
Well, Natalie could probably get into that business instead of politics. So.
I'm not touching that for CPA.
Well, Natalie could be anybody. It could be Natalie the singer too, you know.
It's true.
There is a singer called Natalie after all.
It's true. So on to the next slide. Goal setting is a critical element of successful money management, and we have persons now where we have a handout where we ask persons to write down the goals that they have, and they're asking you to review them with persons that you would trust, obviously, to monitor the progress and to make sure your success is self-reinforced. So the first important thing that they tell you to do is to write it down, because if you have it written down, you have it somewhere where you can see it every day and have it reinforced, it is more likely to stay with you. So again, even for myself, I've always had my goals in my spreadsheet. So every single day when I open my spreadsheet, I see this is what I have to do. This is a reminder that this is what I need to stay focused on. So when distractions come in, that is always in the back of my mind that this needs to be the focus. And unless this distraction is something that's going to take away from it in a minor way, I really am about it. But again, psychology of persons who are able to delay gratification versus who don't. You're going to have to work harder to build on those habits of sticking to your goals. Use your values to set meaningful and compelling goals. So values are the things in life that are most important to you. If you have a family, is it important for you to have a home that you can leave for your family so that you can make sure they're financially secure? Or do you prefer to rent so that you can use that money, because renting typically tends to be cheaper than paying a mortgage, and taking that extra money and investing it in experiences for your family so that they can look back and feel as though they had a good life. Again, only you can determine what is important. Only you can determine the life that you want to live. But you have to make sure that your goals, your financial habits are in alignment with your goals, and that you know that you are comfortable with whatever consequences come out of that. Because at the end of the day, the obvious consequence with owning versus renting is having a place where nobody can kick you out at the end of your 30-year mortgage. Versus renting for the rest of your life, is your retirement fund going to be enough to support you renting until you die? Or are you hoping that, you know, you invested in some children that can feel for you and let you live with them? I mean, people have some strange ideas.
Yeah, it's true.
About how they're going to be able to make it through. But
well, a lot of the olden days, a lot of parents survive because they force their children to come out of school and work. So I mean, it's nothing recent. In my view, not saying that you're not saying that, you know.
So there's coming up to the end, there is an exercise called a values validator that helps you to discover your values.
You want to show them that?
Yes, please.
All right, values validator coming right up.
Let me pull it up myself. So you go back into your Dropbox. Just for those who've come on late, the value validator is there in the Dropbox link, and you are going to rank your top 5 values using this method of ranking. So if it's not important to you, you put a 0. Somewhat important, you put between 1 and 3. Quite important, 4 to 7, and very important, 8 to 10. So then you will look at the ratings and you'll be able to see which ones are the most important to you. And this is supposed to help you to figure out where your values lie. So academics, for example, I have high regard for scholastic pursuits. If you think that that is where you lie, you put a 10, you could put an 8, you could put a 2, you could put 0 because you have absolutely no interest in academics. But once you go through each one, you have here enjoyment. I want to enjoy life and have fun. And be honest with yourself, because there's nothing forcing you to show anybody what is on this paper. You have to have this honest conversation with yourself so that you can see where your values lie. If at the end of the day you do your ranking, you feel disappointed with the values that you have, then you know the work that you have to do to go about changing that. But it is going to be a work in progress to be able to change your habits into something that is more in alignment with what you would want to happen. So again, it's very important not to cheat it. Be honest with yourself. If you realize that friendship is something that's important to you, because that's one that's here, I want to have close companionship. This is another area which is a kind of gray area too, because some persons believe in order to be able to maintain good friendships, you have to spend money by going out to places, eating out together, going to fests together, whatever the case may be. But again, I've made a lot of friends by going to things that are completely free, going to the beach, going to Lime, doing things that are not going to cost you a big set of money because you don't want it to conflict with other goals as well either. So sometimes you may even have to reevaluate some of your friendships where if the only way you can be with this friend is if you're spending a whole ton of money that you know you don't have and they're putting pressure on you even though they know your situation, you may want to sit down and give that some thought, because you have to also bear in mind you pass on these lessons to your children as well too, which is the whole point of this exercise. You want your children to see that the only way they can maintain friendships is if they show off how much money they can spend.
True.
If you don't want to pass on this kind of lesson to your child, don't engage in it for yourself. So you have a lot of things here. Prestige is here, routines and security, all those kind of stuff.
This is actually fairly extensive. I like it.
Yeah, they put a lot of work into it apparently.
And it was adapted from a values worksheet. And it seems like a book called Client-Centered Life Planning by Michael R. Curtis, 2005. So it's dated but yet pertinent. Yeah. So play with it.
And you can even update it with some other things if you know that there are other values there that you want to put down that might have a higher ranking for yourself. There's nothing wrong with tweaking it as well. So
agree.
Yeah, on that. By setting a goal, the more detailed you are, the better you can plan for it. And I think that this is very important. So we have the acronym for SMART goals, and we go through the acronym in detail. So you have to be specific, it has to be measurable, has to be action-oriented, realistic, and time-frame. So I actually have, for those of you who are not aware, I have a blog on The Nation. I actually wrote an article on this at the beginning of the year, where we were talking about New Year's resolutions. And it went into detail about how to set out SMART goals. But they have some examples here. So a specific goal would be, my family wants to go on a month-long vacation to Australia. So a measurable goal would be, I am going to need $5,000 for my flight, accommodation, and meals. You already know upfront. Because just saying you want to go to Australia, yes, it's specific. You want to go to Australia instead of just saying you want to take a vacation. But once you settle where it is you want to go, you measure how much money you're going to need. So, okay, it's $5,000. Action, the action you set for it. I'm going to research reasonably priced hotels online and work with a specialist travel agent, so that you know what you have to do to see how you can get towards this goal. Realistic, I will have to travel in the off season and need to save $400 a month for the next year. So that you already know for a whole year, you need to put down $400 or you're not going to be able to get this done. And then knowing your limits, right, and your financial capabilities will help, because if you already know you can't save $400, you might need to rethink Australia. But you just have to do that. And then setting a time frame. I want to go to Australia next May, which gives me more than a year to save my money. So again, you look at this and you say, $400 is real enough money. But maybe if I set this here to go 2 years from now, you only have to save $200 when the month comes. So these are the kind of things you have to do before you go and buy ticket and all this kind of thing. And then realize you really can't afford this and you've wasted money investing in a goal that you can't reach. Set out these SMART targets so that you'll be able to set yourself up properly and be able to achieve your goals. So always remember the acronym whenever you're setting your goals, because you don't want to set arbitrary goals. Another one I had mentioned was weight. A lot of people really want to lose weight. And the main thing most people know is that they want to lose weight by crop over. That's it. They don't know how much pounds they need to lose. They don't know how often they need to work out to get this thing done. They don't know when they can set aside this time that they never had before to all of a sudden magically be able to work out 5 days a week. They just know they want to lose 20 pounds by crop over. That's it. And then they get frustrated. Again, there's another topic I don't like to touch because I've never had to worry about losing weight in my life. But the premise is the same. If you have a goal, you have to know how you're going to get there so you could avoid disappointment. And don't go buying a $1,000 crop over costume in an extra small when you know that use a large, and then get vexed because that by the time crop over come around, you can't get him in.
People want to look like sausages with strings, man. And the problem. That is a look. That is
not if you didn't want it on purpose. You want it to be small enough to fit in the small costume.
All right.
But that being said, not here trying to make nobody feel bad. I just trying to make sure that people understand why it's important to set SMART goals. And we come into the wrap-up session. Just to summarize the key messages, as an adult with children in your life, obviously not me, you are the most important financial role model, and the best way to raise money smart children is to be money smart yourself. Adults who are most successful at teaching financial management skills talk to children about the family finances and how they manage their own money. And children who learn about money from a young age have a better chance of becoming financially responsible and independent adults. So, just a reminder, we had a number of worksheets. So there's the goal setting worksheet, there's the role model self-assessment, and then there's the values validator. They're all available in the Dropbox link that is in the comment section of this video. I encourage you to fill them out, even if just for yourself. Another reminder that there is an evaluator for you to say whether you think I taught a bunch of crap or if you actually enjoyed this session, and you can fill it out.
Fill it out based on her. I'm inconsequential.
It's
comedic support.
Yes. Financial IT support as well.
IT support.
IT support as well. I appreciate though the input in terms of the real life examples, etc. So I thank you.
No problem. Very much. Thank you for having me. Some of the resources that would have been used would have been a parent's guide to raising money smart kids, and the slides are also available in that Dropbox link. So all of these resources are there for you to look at in case you want to go and do more research or go a little bit deeper. There's CPA Canada's financial literacy. I have to thank CPA Canada once again for providing these slides and for taking the time out. Barbados was actually the guinea pig for the Caribbean. So they put in some extra effort to tailor them from a Canadian perspective to a Barbadian perspective by working with persons here in Barbados to bring in
something that is much more relatable. So thanks to CPA Canada for making that effort. They also have the CPA Canada session, How to Teach Your Kids About Money and Make It Count, Manitoba Securities Commission. So those are the resources that would have been used and tailored. And we would have had a number of questions coming in from before. But if you guys have any other questions, you feel free to drop them in the comment section. Please remember to like, share, and love up the video. And if you want any more, please let me know. Let CPA Canada know how well you thought the session was. And thank you again for taking time out of your Sunday evening to sit down with me. Just a disclaimer, very quickly. This presentation, as I can't say enough, was created by CPA Canada. It is copyrighted by CPA Canada. Its purpose is to inform and educate the attendees on the presentation topic. While the information contained in this presentation is believed to be accurate, no action should be taken based on this presentation alone. And it is available with the understanding that the publisher is not engaged in rendering legal, accounting, or other professional services.
There you go.
So thank you again, everybody. Please have a very blessed Sunday. Bye.
Bye, guys.